We've known there's going to be a big pattern change in North America coming into January. That's been clear, but it wasn't exactly clear how much influence this Arctic outbreak would have in British Columbia. Unfortunately, it's starting to look more and more and more like we are doomed for some cold. However, some of the people are saying out loud that it's going to be coming sooner than I think it actually is. Some are saying kind of alarmist things about snow. Yeah, we may see some snow. We may see some cold. I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to get. Let's go.
Sketched out.
Big moose. Getting angrier. Now we jump off the roof. There she goes. You never know what can happen. They're going on, you know. Here she comes.
That was pretty close.
So we'll just start an overall lookout for Monday, the 1st. The new year, here it is. And we see there's still some pattern of big storms going off in the, heading to the Gulf of Alaska, going off in the Aleutian Islands. And high pressure trying to redevelop that normal high pressure that lives off the coast of the Pacific, off the coast of the western United States, generally more so than BC. Very extreme lows up there, 938, 940. Hurricane strength, look how tight those isobars are. Very strong storms up there. Weaker storms, however, out to the ocean on the Atlantic side. And we do have this potential for some very severe weather that's going to move up into Appalachia. So that's concerns for tornadic outbreaks coming up in the next week or so up there. That's just round one. Here's an unfurling against the BC coast, and we do have snow breaking into the what appears to be northern BC mostly by the 5th, Friday. Here we are. Now we've seen that storm pull itself together in the east coast and slamming hard into Atlantic Canada. So that's going to be quite the story by the weekend coming into. So we'll look out for that. So you do see like signs here that there's precipitation in BC, but nothing I'm that impressed by yet. Vancouver Island, of course, yeah. There we go. Saturday. So do we get some snow? Could be next weekend. Some snow moves into southern BC. That's entirely possible. We'll have a better look at that in a minute. Crazy storms. Crazy storms have been just pulling themselves together in that North Pacific. And for sure, we're going to have snow storms and blizzards and things like that going on in central United States there. Again, this big storm. Another one up here, there's just off the coast of Labrador towards Greenland. So that relative calm period in the Atlantic ended quickly. And again, another big storm moving in by the 9th. So, but we start to see this high pressure dipping down. We start to see this cold air spilling down in the backside of this low. We're looking at possible tornado weather, severe storms out here in the say Illinois and Iowa kind of area. You're looking at snow up into northern Ontario, Manitoba. Well, we have extreme cold, 1040, high pressure. So we're looking at some of that cold air spilling into BC to start next week. This is Tuesday the 9th. And Great Lakes getting a big dose of that storm when it moves through and into Atlantic Canada. So there's going to be big storms to watch for as we enter January in that, hundreds of millions of people live in the Atlantic seaboard between the United States and some in Canada as well, live in the eastern part. There we see possibility of some snow. So this is looking far out. I mean, we don't know for sure what's going to happen at this time, but this gives us some ideas what GFS model sort of suggesting, right? So we could see some snow in the eastern parts of BC at that time, into Alberta, Saskatchewan. So that'll be something we'll be looking at in the coming week to see how that plays out. Some periods of snow. So we do have a bit of a change in the forecast. How much will that hold? We don't know yet. There's not a lot of certainty exactly how things are going to be still when we're talking now 16 days out on these forecasts. So, but if this were to come together, this cold air darting in and this warm Gulf of Mexico air coming up, we're definitely going to see some extreme weather in that United States. So I expect tornado outbreaks will be happening in January for certainly. Definitely a lot of rain, snow up into the Midwest there. BC sitting in that ridge of high pressures. Looks like it's mostly going to be competing with coastal weather at that time. But, this is 16 days out. So we're really, really guessing. Here's our 2-meter temperature anomaly. Certainly right now it's warmer through the United States mostly. And through Canada, especially, Canada's been seeing warmth at a level that's beyond what anywhere else in the world is. You look at what we have here. So warm temperatures across the northern hemisphere in a way, and then it's not until you get to that sort of far north. There's definitely some cold air sitting up there in Norway and places like that, in Finland, Russia, and Siberia. But the most extreme warming that's been going on has really been in this Canadian. It's been us. And we see here the forecast probability of above, below, and near normal temperature. This is without calibration. This is looking towards the period of, say, 2024. They make it as hard as possible to read, right? To the 8th to the 15th. So we're looking at the 8th to 15th chance of temperatures being below what is average. So for the most part, not a whole lot more below what is normal for January in a lot of places. Some of the numbers I've seen are alarming and some are not. We do get pretty cold weather in January, so this should be expected, right? Eastern Canada, however, though, trapped in far warmer than average. So that's a flip, a reversal of what's been going on, right? They've been colder in a lot of ways, and we've been warmer. That's flipped. 850 millibar heights, temperature anomalies, and humidity. Just sort of look, yeah, we see that there is going to be humid air moving into British Columbia at times in this first week of January. We'll talk about that in a minute. And we see some of these temperature numbers, 15s, 20s, 25s, most of that outside of British Columbia. So people are saying that we're going to be hitting into the Arctic outbreak this week. I disagree with that. BC weather guy, I read his report. I'm not in full agreement with how he's worded and said. But hey, if I looked at what I said on Thursday about where this Arctic air mass might be moving, I wouldn't agree with myself. If we want the truth, we got to look at the windy. This is the ECMWF model for sure. That cold sitting there. Now we're just going to flip through. We're going to look at nighttime as our base because that's when we get sort of the idea of how bad it can really get. So we do have in the Yukon minus 17s. If we go a night forward, definitely now northern part of Manitoba. So this is exactly how we were seeing this play out and predicting. This is more or less what on Thursday we were saying. It's not until we start coming into later in the week, Friday, here we go, and we see that air mass starting to really spread out across Canada. We see below zero temperatures through much of the United States, minus 21s there in Denver, Colorado, Alamosa, Colorado Springs. You could be seeing those kind of temperatures somewhere in your regions, perhaps experiencing them yourselves, depending on how this exactly lands and where it exactly plays out. Here's the blast south starting on Saturday. This is the first time we start seeing these temperatures this year in BC, minus 18. I've had maybe a minus 18 night so far here in Wells, so I'm kind of lying, but it's not really been normal Wells winter, no. And we see more of that air spilling out. So getting the side glance that we're really hoping and believing was that this was all going to be as it is. So this is more or less what we expected, and it's going to move across and take up northern Ontario, northern Quebec. But all of a sudden, this bullshit comes out of nowhere. Minus 27. And if we look at GFS, they think we're much colder. So minus 23s at that time in BC. One will be right, one will not. So both kind of agree on how the weekend starts, more or less. But GFS thinks we're going to get colder faster. So we look at Monday the 8th, and now we're getting to some, even down in Vernon, you're well in the minus 9. Our friends out in Punxsy, they might get 14s, or they might get 18, or they might get some of this air here come down 20. So we're now we're talking about, will this happen and how will this happen? And there we go, 22s there. Spilling down the Rockies. It likes to use the Rockies like a highway sometimes, the cold air. So, yes, some measure of Arctic outbreak. That is happening. More likely now than not. How extreme? How long will it last? I don't know if these numbers are going to line up next week at this time. but it looks more or less like by the 9th, as we expected this air to spill, we expected it to do this. I was predicting this. So we may have a short lived period in that nighttime temperatures of minus 10s, minus 20s, depending where you are in BC. I did see forecast this morning that said minus 35 for McBride. So that's changed again since I looked at these same maps today. So it's going to keep changing until we narrow down exactly what's going to play out. The big question comedian Tim Nutt and other people have, because he's an avid skier and big white and he likes to go snowshoeing, is snow. Are we going to get some? So, well, next 3 days, basically not, according to GFS. And next 10 days, maybe a little. And well, over the next 5 to 10 days, we could see some of that. So that's looking at next weekend. We could see 16. So let's see CMWF. Does it agree? Yeah, mostly. It's got a little more detail, but it mostly agrees. And if we look at, well, let's look at where maybe Silver Star is and Big White, I should say. So maybe 15 centimeters out there. That's not very much. Maybe 70 more towards the Coast Mountains. Here in Wells, surprisingly, we remain practically below Prince George in this time. ECMWF doesn't think you get anything. And GFS more or less agrees that Western Plateau, nada. Even the people of the lower mainland may see a dusting. Oh, look at this. You may get 5 centimeters, Vancouver. So BC weather guys got some pretty big predictions. But you're a Vancouver-based guy. I'm not sure how much of the province of British Columbia you spend time in. Yeah, a little colder for Vancouver than normal. Maybe a little bit of snow down there in the next 10 days. So we were expecting some flurries on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. They are happening, but maybe not exactly as widespread as we thought today. Freezing rain is not in the forecast like it was. Seems like there is a little bit though in Saskatchewan. And we look at Monday the 1st. Yeah, just some dustings of snow, really. I mean, nothing that you would want to write to your mother about and be like, man, we had a big snowstorm. And again, we see this is going to head up, and where's it going to go? It's going to go to Juneau, and it's going to go to Anchorage, and they've just had so much snow. It's insane. How much snow they had up there? I mean, we're talking right on the ocean side. Here's Anchorage. It just had record snowfalls. There's 133 centimeters on the outside, a meter of snow on the ground right now. And that's 242 kilograms per meter cubed. So that means it's pretty dense snow, actually. It's not, that means it was much more than a meter that fell, and it's compacted itself. And sometimes you see that density go higher and higher, especially if you're into areas where you know they're glaciers and things like that. You'll see a higher density, but 285 is pretty dense. And we'll just quickly walk through and look and see, well, how little there really is. So dusting overnight, storm mostly moves up the coast. Terrace maybe getting some snow on Tuesday. Little bits into Vancouver Island. Temperatures are maybe below zero by that time, more so. Definitely have good pattern of rainfall. We got like, it's like some sort of a pulley system here. Like, what do you like, a belt machine, like just pulling it up. I wish I would quit doing that. There we go. Tuesday the 2nd. A little bit of snow, maybe moving through some flurries. 100-mile house, going to see some Kamloops salmon arm. Yeah, it looks like everyone could see a dusting. A dusting. So nothing that's going to necessarily change your situation yet, but finally seeing a little bit up in the piece. Yeah, a little bit north of Fort St. John, a little more dense. Certainly on Wednesday, stronger chance. So some of these snowfall totals, centimeters an hour. We're not talking about over a 3-hour period of centimeter. We're not talking about big time hammer and snow. No, we're not. Some snow, yeah, some possible. Thursday, 1 in the morning, northern BC, the coast, Kitsault, Terrace. Sure, Friday is when we start to see better chance. There we go. Friday, she's moving through, she's moving through, she's moving through. Vancouver getting lots of rainfall, potentially. Coast Mountains getting big time precip. Maybe some big time snowfall totals. Those yellows look greasy. So that's definitely when you're getting into some bigger time precip. Maybe everywhere in southern BC could see this. So you got weekend plans on Friday. You're traveling, you're doing something on Friday. Just be aware that there could be some messy conditions on the roads. That whether or not we have majorly impacting snowfalls at this time, we do have the potential of having travel be made difficult because of so. Yep, that low, nothing too crazy. Saturday, sending some stuff in though, nonetheless. So it's next weekend that we're really gonna probably see our best chance of widespread, meaningful snow with temperatures that will sustain it staying on the ground, except for in Kelowna where it's 0. And the sun will probably melt away your snow. And then Saturday overnight, Sunday, she's moving through. Really, our friends down in the United States are having a fun go of it there. And this is some of those storms we're talking about already. We know this is when our cold air starts to move in. So we do see some temperatures up here starting to drop. 16s, Finch Georgia on the 10, McBride 10 on Sunday morning. So we could see by next weekend, Burns Lake 12. Could be starting to get into some of those double-digit temperatures on a more normal basis for a time. So that's about all I got for the next week. That's how 2024 starts. So thanks very much, everyone, for coming by. I'd like to thank all my patrons. Please hit subscribe and share and like and help me grow the channel. I hope you all have a great start to 2024. Be safe out there tonight. If you're drinking, do not drive. People's lives are on the line, including your own. Please be safe out there. That's what I wish for you to start the year. No tragedies to begin 2024. Okay, bye for now, everyone. I would just like the world to know how thankful I am to my patrons and supporters.
Thank you, everybody.